Wokism has been sliced and diced extensively. We know its philosophical underpinnings, how it evolved historically, how it took center stage.
The whole crux of the problem lies in the basic dissatisfaction of...
Yes, even sociologists had their say, psychologists jumped into the fray, and let's not forget about celebrities, media types, and YouTubers. I don't want to compete with the experts or repeat any of the good content that's out there. I'll give you 4 personal reasons why I'm not woke. 1. Growing up in the Socialist People's Republic of Hungary has left indelible marks on me. What's the difference between an East European socialist regime behind the Iron Curtain and today's Wokistan? Well, here we have no Soviet troops and at this stage no dead people or gulags, but consider some of the features of the Hungarian soft dictatorship for comparison. Compelled language to alter the perception of the past and to shape the thinking of the emerging socialist person type. Change the language, change the culture. Censorship, both kinds, the classic state-imposed iron fist variety and a more pervasive self-censorship driven by fear. Overwhelming socialist propaganda on all fronts of the culture war, from education to media to art. Good jobs go to the party faithful. Good comrades promoted, dissenters sidelined and silenced. Polarized society. Everything is black and white. You're either a good comrade or you are a bourgeois, Nazi, revisionist, ultranationalist, bigot, subversive, etc., or, like me, an enemy of the people. Nothing in between. And a belief in historical inevitability. No matter how much evidence is piling up that socialism sucks, it doesn't work, and the people are suffering, the good communists know that they're on the right side of history, temporary sacrifices don't matter, and the end justifies the means. I was only 10 when I had my first encounter with the regime. The face of it was a careerist female teacher, a communist climber, and the lover of the school principal, who himself was an old comrade. This dynamic duo dominated the scene at my school. My free-thinking, freedom-loving, proud individual attitude irritated them. She became my nurse Ratchet.
I can explain everything.
Please do, Billy. Explain everything.
Everything?
Aren't you ashamed?
No, I'm not.
All right.
While that one in the movie tried to keep her professional facade, this one slapped me, physically, and repeatedly slapped me and humiliated me with a passion. Obviously, I needed to be beaten into submission for my own good. In her mind, she served a higher cause by transforming a potential class enemy into a happy socialist person. By the time I was a young man, I bumped into all of the problems I listed above. 2. I'm not coming from a privileged family, but I can proudly say that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. My folks were farmers, workers, simple people who stood up for justice, showed remarkable resilience in trying times, and laughed death in the face. The communists could throw any kind of indoctrination garbage at us. The meaningful and empowering messages came from my uncles and my father. I don't believe that it's a lie. I knew that we were on the right side of history. 3. Although the communists tried their best to isolate the population from Western propaganda, they couldn't pull off a North Korean-style airtight control. Radio, Free Europe, the Voice of America, Books and articles reached us. But most importantly, people were talking to people behind closed doors, speaking the truth. We were the Fahrenheit book people.
Première femme de mon père. Il avait tout. Et pas de garçon. Il avait marié.
Another thing is, I was lucky to go to the Piarista High School. It was a small miracle that it existed at all. After the communist coup, the church was essentially dismantled. Under a deal, 8 church-run high schools were permitted to operate in limited capacity. The teacher monks had to follow the state curriculum. The only exception was that we had theology classes. Providing the highest quality education was the monks' calling, and although they could not speak against the regime openly, they presented a solid and convincing alternative to Marxist ideology. 4. As a landed immigrant in Canada, I experienced culture shock. At the University of Waterloo, I met a number of progressive individuals. Since they were clearly a more advanced species, they felt that it was appropriate to condescendingly educate the East European riffraff. When I started to teach in an elementary school in suburban Toronto, again I met leftists, feminists, anti-racism commissars, language changers, greenies, curriculum visionaries, you name it, they were there. Many of them weren't happy campers, particularly the unmarried feminists with their biological clocks ticking. And then there were the damaged goods, bitter and toxic divorcees. I have actually written down the struggles of the unhappy female teachers I worked with, various disasters, lives in shambles. None of these women were able to find a root cause of their problems. I had questionable ideas in my head that didn't work out. That's what screwed me up. Why were those questionable ideas in my head in the first place? If you build your house on sand instead of a rock, what do you expect? People need time-tested wisdom to live by. I could go on and on with my personal experiences and pile up a ton of supporting details about the insanity of Wokism and the damage it causes. I'll throw in only one. Liberating, decolonizing, dismantling institutional racism, changing the entire culture of the United States, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The American Psychological Association's communications read like the Communist Manifesto. The association issued an apology to people of color for APA's role in promoting, perpetuating, and failing to challenge racism, racial discrimination, and human hierarchy in the United States. This was followed by a racial equity action plan and by now infamous inclusive language guide. This is the 2023 president of the APA, Dr. Thema Bryant.
And while we know transformation takes place in protest march and in the Supreme Court, that transformation happens based on who you put in the jury box and on the school board, I want you to know transformation also takes place in the therapy room. So in the words of Tracy Chapman, don't you know We're talking about a revolution. Sounds like a whisper.
So this is where they are now. This Dr. Thema Bryant wasn't even around in the 90s, but her predecessors already laid the groundwork for the revolutionary transformation of individuals. I met one of these liberated individuals in 2003, a heavy-set former policeman with a big square jaw and black stubble up to his eye sockets and a deep voice. He didn't get along with the other officers and had issues. The psychologists were ready for him with answers and solutions. Of course, he was a woman trapped in a man's body. Our guy never physically transitioned, just dressed up in women's clothing, put on heavy makeup and a hideous wig.
I cut down trees where a hill suspended and a bra. I wish I'd been a girlie, just like my dear papa. I cut down trees where a hill suspended and a bra.
Just imagine his muscular legs in high heels. On top of everything, he craved attention, went to bars on open mic nights and played his guitar. This grotesque creature made hundreds of people uncomfortable. People thought that he needed treatment, and it's not fair that everybody else was forced to walk on eggshells around him. At that time, I didn't know what the APA was up to. I didn't read articles about gender this and gender that. It took me 20 years to finally catch up and inform myself. Now, this one here is a fairly current seminar text from the University of Waterloo, a collection of articles on psychosexual matters. This is where I found Professor Paul McHugh's article on surgical sex. I read it and I was stunned because it accurately described my autogynephilic guy from 2003. It described him to a T. I knew back then that the professionals let him down. The professionals who were supposed to help him. As McHugh puts it, we have wasted scientific and technical resources and damaged our professional credibility by collaborating with madness rather than trying to study, cure, and ultimately prevent it. Never mind professional credibility. How about the human wrecks that they left behind? Enough said. I just stop here and ask, where's the bacon? Show me the benefits of Wokism. Show me the shiny, happy people. Where are they? Sometimes I wonder, what will future historians say about this phase of our civilization?